Okay, I feel like I'm getting faster at going through these, and that's sort of by design, actually, because I felt like I needed to really explain, maybe even over-explain the first several poems, since this is really your first exposure to Latin poetry. But as you're getting more and more used to Catullus' style, it tends to go faster. So with that having been said, ablative absolute, let's move on. We're going to notice in this very short poem, which happens to be an elegiac couplet, or written in that meter, rather, something has changed a little bit about Catullus' relationship with Lesbia. So let's do this, and we'll just take the first two lines, the first couplet, and then the second. Nulli se dicit mulier mea nubere male, qua mihi, non si se Jupiter ipse petat. Nulli se dicit mulier mea nubere male, qua mihi, non si se Jupiter ipse petat. Okay. First of all, I don't know why there's a comma here. That is I think a typo on my part, so you guys should probably just sort of like forget that that's even there. I don't know. Just erase that little comma. Okay, moving on. So what do we see here? Well, interestingly enough, the main verb, you probably see pretty right off the bat here. And it's dicit. Now, what does dicit mean? Of course, that means to say. And what does that oftentimes set up is indirect statement. By the way, let me back up. This is Catullus poem number 70. It's found on page 220 of your book. 220 of your book. So probably setting up indirect statement. Do I see an infinitive somewhere? I sure do actually see a couple that are later on in this first line. I see nubere, and I see male, M-A-L-L-E. Do I see anything that looks possibly subject, nominative-ish? I know that my subject, because the verb ends in T, has to be a he, she, or it. Well, mea, that looks nominative, and it's actually describing mulier. And for those of you who knew Spanish, mujer comes from this as well. So mulier mea means my woman. My woman. So now, do we see any clauses anywhere? We sure do. Do we see si there? Si meaning if, and we're going to end it here at petat, the end of the sentence. Petat happens to be our verb in this clause. I feel like petat is spelled strangely. It must therefore be present tense subjunctive, which it is. Who's the subject of petat? Looks like it's going to be old Jupe himself, Jupiter ipse. Okay. So, let's piece this all together. We know our subject. Say, that word always refers back to whomever the subject is, and say is accusative or ablative, but here it's accusative, and it's actually the accusative subject of the indirect statement. So, my woman says that she, male means prefers, she says that she prefers to marry, or to be married, to nobody than to me, not if Jupiter himself, like not even if Jupiter himself begs her. Wow. So my woman says that she prefers to be married to nobody rather than to me, or other than me, not even if Jupiter himself begs her, or asks her, or seeks her. Well, so far, that sounds pretty, in line with what Catullus has been saying the last few poems. But here it comes. Dicit, but sed mulier cupido quo dicit amanti, invento et rapida scribere oportet aqua. sed mulier cupido, quo dicet amanti, invento et rapida scribere oportet aqua. So your book actually has an interesting question on page 220. What would be the best translation for the first decet in line 3? Yeah, that's interesting. So it's kind of a tough one. So my woman says that she prefers to be married to nobody than to me, not even if the king of the gods himself asks her. She says it. Now, is there a clause somewhere? There is, and it deals with quod, but we actually have to back it all the way up to here. Oops, sorry, I meant to put that in black. Oh well. Now, what's the verb inside the clause? Do we see a verb inside the clause? It's decet once again. So there's lots of contradictions here, I guess, or distinctions between what a person says versus what they do. So moving on, the main thrust, therefore, after the semicolon would be this last little bit here. Do we see a verb? And we sure do. Oportet. Do we see an infinitive? We sure do. Right here at scribere. Do we see prepositional phrases anywhere? I see one prepositional phrase. Invento, et, yeah, and it continues on. Et rapida aqua. That's all part of the same prepositional phrase. Okay? So, she says it, but quod is my subject, but what? I'm sorry, not my subject, rather. The subject is mulier. My bad. Let me mark that. Mulier is the subject. But what a woman says to, this is dative. Cupido and amanti are both dative singular. Cupido means eager, and amanti is a lover. But what a woman says to an eager lover, it is right, or it is proper, to write it on the wind and the rapid water. So she says she prefers to be married to nobody than to me, not even if Jupiter himself asks her. She says it, but what a woman says to an eager lover, it is necessary to, or it is proper to write it in the wind and on the rapid water. Oh boy, something's happened here. Catullus is not necessarily trusting Lesbia at this point, but he is still madly in love with her. So we'll find out what happens next time on Latin Video Time.